It is my pleasure to welcome fellow commissioners, guests, and staff to the Finance and Physical Resource Committee meeting on Tuesday, November 6th. It is 8:30. We will start with public comment. Is there any public that would like to address the Finance and Physical Resources Committee this morning? Okay, seeing none, we will move on to our consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Okay, moved and supported. Anything have to be pulled? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. The motion passes. That brings us to item number 3 from the Administrator's Office. Wayman.
Sure, thank you. This is a recommendation to the Board of Commissioners to approve the 2019 General Operation Act as the official budget for 2019. It is the responsibility of the County Administrator Controller to prepare an annual budget, which includes operating and capital improvement for the county, and the 2019 budget has been submitted to the Financial and Fiscal Resources Committee for review. I want to point out we also have had 4 work sessions with the Finance Committee relative to this budget. Pursuant to statute, a public hearing on the proposed budget will be held on November the 8th, 2018, and the appropriation public notice was published. The Finance and Fiscal Resources Committee has reviewed the 2019 budget in detail. Estimated total appropriations for the various fund types are proposed as follows. General Fund, $179.6 million. Special Revenue Funds, $74.7 million. Capital Project Funds, $11.1 million for a total of $265.5 million. Kent County voters authorized millages of .7828 mills for correction detention facility operations and debt services, .4958 mills for senior services, .4363 mills for zoo museum operations, and .0495 mills for veteran services, which has been used for the basis of preparing the 2019 budget. In May 2019, the Board of Commissioners will be requested to authorize a general property tax levy on real and personal property within the county upon the equalized tax roll to support county general fund operations in 2019. This request includes an addition of 8.0 FTE positions, which includes a financial analyst, emergency communications officer, 1 SRO sergeant, and 3 school resource officers. And it was recommended by the Legislative Resources Committee.
Okay, is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Thank you, and moved and supported. So we'll take questions, comments, and discussion. Yes, Commissioner Morgan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This has been a pretty good process. Wayman, congratulations on your first budget submission. There's 5 things I'd like to note about this in very brief about this budget. It's balanced with a little bit of surplus. It was able to meet the needs of our departments. It added some public safety positions. And it paid down some legacy costs, which I think is important because we're not bonding to cover those costs, which puts us in a total different category. And we were able to exceed a little bit on our commitment to capital. And going through the budget, the thing that struck me, and this is just a little shout out to my colleagues, our public safety is about 90 million, and our human services is about 85 million. And so when you look at that in total, I think that's pretty balanced. So there are a lot more things I like about this budget, but I just wanted to say my top 5. Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, Commissioner Bukowski.
Thank you, Chair. I want to start by thanking you for, the extra sessions that we had to drill into this. Thank you, Wayman, and the rest of the staff for doing that work for us and helping us to understand various parts and pieces. Yeah, so I'll leave my comment at a simple thank you at this point, and on to 2019.
Thank you. Commissioner Voorhees?
Thank you, Chair Jones. Yeah, I've had some discussions, as you all know, and those of staff at WIN, but I come to support the budget and echo Roger's, Commissioner Morgan's comments. Congratulations on your first budget, and thank you for your leadership, Madam Chair. And yeah, we've had some good discussions, and I'm in full support for our budget for 2019. Thank you.
Hey. Vice Chair Hennessy.
I have appreciated the process we've gone through this year as well, and it has involved a lot of discussion and a lot of forward-looking discussion. And as Commissioner Morgan noted, there's a little bit of excess of revenues over the expenditures, and I think that will leave us room to perhaps consider some changes as the years go on, and so that some of those major projects that we've also talked about and maybe coming down the path will be able to be further considered. So while it's the end product for this year's work, we already can be starting and looking forward on this, and it's a good process that we're developing along the way. So I thank you.
Thank you. Hey. I don't see anything else, so I'm just going to add that I am incredibly impressed with the staff and the process and the time that we've put into this and the detail that we work every single year, because this is a critical part of what we do and how we do it. Our administrator writes an incredibly detailed, lengthy opening letter when he prepares the budget, and I really like to encourage everyone who maybe he's watching at home or maybe in the audience, if you could take a look at that and read that, because there's a lot of great detail in that letter. And one piece I really wanted to highlight is the proposed millage rate for the 2019 budget is 6.0447 mils, which is 0.0071 mils less than the millage rate levied for the 2018 budget due to the Headley rollback. So very often we talk about our 4.2803 mils that is used as the county operating millage rate, but I really think it's important at this point in time to make sure that we have verbalized and recognized that really the mills that are levied is 6.0447. So I just wanted to make a comment on that number because I think it's an important one, because that's what makes all of this happen. So with that, we have a motion, we have support, we've had our comments. Why don't we go ahead and take a roll call vote? I would like to do a roll call vote on this, Pam.
Commissioner Hennessy.
Yes.
Commissioner Antor.
Yes.
Commissioner Breivy.
Yes.
Commissioner Bukowski.
Yes.
Commissioner Mast.
Yes.
Commissioner Melton.
Yes.
Commissioner Morgan.
Yes.
Commissioner Voorhees.
Yes.
Chair Jones.
Yes. So with that, that passes, and then from there, Wayman, it will go to the public hearing, which
Yes.
is November 8th.
Thursday.
Yes, this Thursday.
Yes.
Okay, with that, we will go to item number 4 on our agenda from the sheriff. Wayman?
Yes, this is a recommendation to accept a Kent County Traffic Enforcement Grant to appropriate $29,600 from the Michigan Office of Highway Safety Planning to the fiscal year 2018-19 sheriff budget, Special Projects Fund, contingent upon award, and to authorize the board chair or designate to sign all grant documents. The Michigan Office of Highway Safety has approved $29,600 in federal funds for the Highway Safety Project, Kent County Traffic Enforcement Grant. Funding is contingent upon availability of the U.S. Department of Transportation Highway Safety funds. The grant funds will be used to fund overtime for road and benefits for road patrol officers to achieve fatal and serious injury reductions from increased impaired driving enforcement and, to a lesser extent, seatbelt enforcement. The grant period is October 10, 2018 to September 30th, 2019.
Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Okay, we have moved by Commissioner Breve, supported by Commissioner Voorhees. Questions, comments, and discussion? Yes, Commissioner Bukowski?
Thanks, Chair. Real quick, long story short, I'm going to vote against this. I don't know if you know, today's election day. And it's time to get serious with our friends in Washington about how messed up things are. I mean, we're going to spend over $300 billion this year just on interest on the debt. That's a lot of money, even for probably Commissioner Morgan. $300 billion that we're going to pay people to borrow their money. And I've talked to the sheriff about this. Congratulations, Sheriff, on being sheriff. It has absolutely zero about what the sheriff is doing and the great work of our road patrol and all of that. We just moved along a budget that contained a $930,000 projected surplus. So if we need to do this, let's spend our money and do this. However, to borrow $30,000 from our kids, grandkids, and it's going to cost how much money to administer this between here and Washington, because it goes through Lansing. So it's time for us to get serious about all the federal dollars we receive, and really looking at what is this thing called the cost of government. And so vote early and often today, and I'll vote in a moment. Thank you.
Commissioner Antor.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I'd like to talk a little bit just about the what this money is going to be used for, and it's going to be going after people that are driving impaired. And sure, welcome, Sheriff. We're about ready to vote today, and one of our proposals is going to be legalizing recreational marijuana. And this $29,000 is going to come close to pick up the tab on the extra people that we could use while we're processing people that are driving impaired on marijuana. It's a whole new ballgame. Driving while intoxicated, got that down where they could do it in a relatively quick period of time, but this is going to take patrol officers off the road for probably 3 or 4 hours from what I understand. And when they're off the road for half their shift, the sheriff's either have to make up their mind whether we're going to bring more people in to cover those. And so our vote today does have great consequences, and I think voting yes to tie it in with this on Proposal 1 makes us a lot less safe. Takes coverage out of neighborhoods because these guys are going to be locked up, and the ladies on the road, they're going to be bogged down on processing these things, because this is all new science, and I just think your vote means things. There is consequences behind every vote. So I just wanted to say that, and good luck with this, because you're stepping in at a weird time.
Yeah, so in case anybody hasn't voted yet, the one thing that is really important to understand about drug driving is its difficulty in detecting roadside. We might be able to tell somebody's impaired, but trying to determine why they're impaired becomes more complicated. There's not a per se limit in Michigan like there is for drunk driving, so we have to show impairment. It is a very complicated process, and it almost always ends up in court for a more extrapolated time than what drunk driving does. So it will have public safety impact from our enforcement standpoint, but then also from just the safety of driving. And there has been significant impact in those states who have already legalized recreational marijuana. So,
my fear is the amount of time you're going to be out of service.
Right. Well, out of service and the risk of the community for those who aren't caught, frankly. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, Commissioner Hennessy.
This is a small grant, $29,655. Commissioner Bukowski's comments took me by surprise, but it is interesting. I mean, what exactly does $29,655 do for us? I mean, it's not very much. It's not going to afford very much. And what is the cost of administering it for the little amount that this is?
So, and we had a chance to talk a little bit prior to the meeting, and so this is a combined grant for all area law enforcement within Kent County. So it's a more substantial grant when it's taken in its entirety, the 29 and change is the Kent County Sheriff's Office portion of it, and we actually, we have to tell the grant administrator, which I think in this case is Wyoming PD, they have taken their turn to be the grant administrator for the whole program this year. We have to tell them how many hours we can actually support and how many hours we can fill with staff on overtime. And so it pays for the overtime, for the extra enforcement on weekend nights and holiday nights, and it's kind of varied, so people don't know when it's going to be, and they can't predict where an officer is going to be doing extra time. But it is a relatively small grant, and it's easier for us to know ahead of time, like a year ahead of time, we're going to have this much money for local law enforcement and be able to spend it where we want to. But this is the way the money comes, and it comes out of the state office, and it's for these enforcement programs. And I cannot say enough how important these enforcement initiatives are. So we're gonna ask for the money, and we're gonna do what we can to step up the enforcement.
So how many hours will that give you?
Make me do math right here. It's about
It's still
600
not much.
hours of overtime, so, and it's
Okay.
over the last quarter of this year. So it's a fairly focused amount of overtime for impairment enforcement.
Oh, it's for the last quarter of this year?
By the time we're done billing, it will go into the first part of next year, but it's worked over the holiday season. So it'll be Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's, which obviously goes into 19. But this money is, I don't know what the deadline is. You guys? No, I think it's like by the end of January, we have to have all of our hours in.
Are you good?
I'm going to be doing some quick thinking about this one.
Okay, Commissioner Morgan?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So the Sheriff's Department is requesting this money to offset some overtime expenses. I'm glad you answered that question because I think it's important. And don't they even advertise on the seatbelt enforcement where they're going to be?
Yeah.
So it's always struck me that seatbelt enforcement between Belden, M44, and 10 Mile Road. Well, everybody that's listening or watching TV realizes or knows that you're going to be out that day, right? Now, I'm not saying that about the drug enforcement side of it, but I'm really concerned about what kind of technology we have to identify somebody that's impaired under the influence of THC as opposed to alcohol that was developed over a number of years. So I guess where my real concern is we're going to have some folks operating motor vehicles that shouldn't be operating motor vehicles.
Right, and then just to make it clear, we do seatbelt enforcement, but that is not the focus of this grant sequence. This grant sequence is definitely on impaired driving through the holidays.
So this grant is for future expenses. It's not to pay expenses that have already been incurred?
Correct. You will get another, we will bring back the final, and if there's an additional, a lot of times at the end of this grant period, some agencies can't use up what they expected to, and they distribute that out to the other agencies. Often you'll hear us come back in January and say, we're asking for an additional appropriation for what we spent on the grant program. But again, our focus is impaired driving, and yes, it's a whole new ballgame.
So,
now.
Madam Sheriff, pretty collaborative.
It absolutely is. It's all area law enforcement throughout Kent County, and that's happening, replicated over the entire state based on the population of each county.
Thank you.
Okay, anyone else? All right, seeing none, I'd like to take a roll call vote on this one too, please, Pam. Thank you.
Commissioner Hennessy,
Yes.
Commissioner Antor,
Yes.
Commissioner Brevy,
Yes.
Commissioner Bukowski,
No.
Commissioner Mast,
Yes.
Commissioner Melton,
Yes.
Commissioner Morgan,
Yes.
Commissioner Voorhees,
Yes.
Chair Jones.
Yes. right, that passes. We will go on to item number 5 from Fiscal Services, the Financial Status Report.
Steve Duarte is going to make the presentation today.
All right, hello, Steve. Welcome.
Fiscal Services.
Good morning, Commissioners. I want to provide the board with a brief update, high-level overview of the general fund today. You should have had a report in your package. The way I'd like to do it is go to page 2 and talk about the building blocks, wages, FICA, those type of things that make this happen. I will also be referring to what probably is page 4 in your package that will talk about the highlights of what I'm presenting. So if you look at page 2, we'll start with the revenues. The budget provides for a 1.8% increase in revenues from 170.1 to 173.1. On the year-to-date, revenues are up 6% from 136.5 to 144.7. I would now go down the left side and talk about the significant revenue variances. Taxes increased from 77.6 to 85.1 million, or 9.6%. That's basically the timing of the collection of taxes. Sometimes they come in early, sometimes they come in late. It will level out by time we get to the end of the year. Intergovernmental revenues have decreased from 15.6 million to 14.8, or 5.1%. This is primarily due to the timing of receipts of liquor tax payments and the planned reduction in the contributions from local units to the dispatch, our dispatch, and that's because of the increase in the surcharge. That was part of the deal for that, to not charge them any further.
Yes, Commissioner Voorhees, you have a question?
If I could?
Sure.
Thank you. Good morning, Steve.
Good morning, sir.
Through our conversation, what you brought in previous, can we make the statement that our property tax levy is less than it was a year ago? I believe that's what was explained. But yet our revenue is increased over. So we had a tax levy reduction and a tax revenue increase.
Tax levy reduction, not for the general operating. So, I mean, if you're talking about the rate, it's for 2803.
In total, yes. General operating, no.
In total, yes, but not the general operating. In total.
In total.
Yes.
In total, we can say that we lowered our tax levy because of the headwind, but yet we had an increase in revenue.
We did not lower the tax levy in the general operating.
Marvin, can you talk into the mic, please? Thank you.
The general operating levy was not lowered because the general operating levy that is levied is less than the maximum allowable. So that was not lowered. Well, the maximum allowable was lowered, the amount levied was not lowered. If it gets lowered again in 2019, we'll probably see the levy get lowered.
Okay.
But the receipts are higher, like you pointed out.
Receipts are higher.
Yeah.
And
we're up.
part of that is the timing, which he's talked about early on.
Timing.
Okay.
As he said, it's going to level off before the...
I'm just looking for good ammunition to say that when we lower taxes, we even get more revenue. And so that's what I kind of heard this morning. All right. Thank you. Thank you, Madam.
Sure. Wait, Commissioner Bukowski, I saw, was that a
Well, I mean,
hand?
again, we have to look at the difference between coincident and causation, where the increased taxation receipts is the rising value of property, not that's the causation, not necessarily the lowering of a tax rate caused by Headley. So again,
Right.
I'll just, as a person who doesn't believe in that elixir, that causation and coincidence are two separate phenomena. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have to noodle that one.
Thank you.
Okay,
Sorry.
go ahead, Steve.
Thank you. Interest, rents, and royalties have decreased from 3.6 million to 3.4 million, or 3.9%. Again, it's primarily the timing of certain revenues were coming in, such as the courthouse payment that we bill. Other revenue has increased from 4.2 million to 7 million, or 65.6%. This is due to the 3.3 million in revenue generated by the sale of North Monroe property, so it's a one-time cash into us. Any questions on the revenues? The budget provides for a 2.9% increase in expenditures from 169.0 to 173.9. Year-to-date, expenditures are up 3.8% from 122.5 to 127.2. Again, significant expenditure variances are follows. Wages increased from 43.4 million to 46.2 million, or 6.7%. This is primarily due to the way we changed the accounting because of the new payroll system. And in fact, we end up with an extra payroll in for this period compared to last year, mainly because the payroll system now accrues payroll rather than does it on a cash basis. So before, if the payroll was all earned or all incurred in, say, June and paid in July, under the old system, it would reflect in July. Under the new system, it says, no, that was actually incurred for June, so it accrues it back. I would expect that to all level out because we haven't added staff. It will all level out by the end of the year because normally we accrue back payroll at the end of the year. Now it's just going on an ongoing basis. All the costs, I'm not going to cover them all, but all the costs related to wages because of that extra payroll that are tied to a percentage of payroll. FICA, OPEB, pension, workers' comp are also up because you had that extra payroll. If you look at the health care, that's down. That's because we had that health care holiday where we intentionally did not collect from both employees and employer, so the general fund was a benefactor of that. Any questions on that? The supplies category has increased from 1.5 million to 1.9 million, or 25%. Primary reason for this are the increased cost for operating supplies, gas, oil, grease, and vehicle supplies, which is related to increased staffing in vehicles. It also is partially related to increased price in gas. If you look back October to October to October, from 18 to 17 to 16, between 16 and 17, gas increased about 20 cents a gallon. If you look from 17 to 18, it's another 20 cents a gallon. So over the last 2 years, in October, it's about 40 cents a gallon difference. The capital category has increased from 1.5 million to 1.7 million, or 15.8%. Primary reason for this is planned capital expenditures for parks, which was equipment, and the sheriff equipment and vehicles were up a little bit, and it was planned for, so it's just up from the prior year. And that's it for the expenditures, unless you have a specific question on the expenditures. Okay, going down to fund balance. We expect that fiscal year 2018 will end with a surplus. Our goal is to get back into compliance with our fund balance policy, and this should do it for this year. As you know, we ended the year last year at 39.58%. Our policy calls for 40. That's about a shortfall of about $742,000. We need to have a surplus this year to get us back to the overall 40% we want to be at. Questions?
Okay.
Thank you.
Wait, Commissioner Bukowski?
Yeah, do we have a projected year end when it comes to that net revenue position?
And whether we will have a surplus, how much?
Yeah, I mean, and I know there's a lot of timing issues within this third quarter comparison. However, it looks like we're ahead by $3.5 million when it looks at net revenue over last year's position. And so I don't think we should expect an additional $3.5 million in our net revenue on December 31st.
I can tell you that's a safe bet.
Okay, good. Whew. Anybody want to take that bet then? No. But that being said, I mean, have you started projecting year end?
I would expect that we will end up in the surplus of $1 million plus, okay? That's about what we ended up with last year. It's the type of growth we're going to have to continue to see, because that 40%, as we increase our budget for transfers out and for the general fund, requires that we hold more capital to meet the needs of those. And if we should add any funds, we will need that also.
Yes, Commissioner Morgan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Steve, when you mentioned last year's budget or now, how did the sale of the property tie into that?
How does what?
How did the sale of our property,
Oh, that North Monroe stuff?
tie into
Well,
that?
it's a temporary thing because we have the cash in. But what we're going to do is we've had three things that has to happen. One, we set up a capital project for the sale of the parking lot because we know we're going to have to construct a new parking lot. So that money's already been moved in to the CIP fund. The $3.3 million, as I understand it, and the way we've moved with this, $400,000 is being moved in, or has been moved into the capital projects for the Sports Commission. The other $2.9 million, we will come up here with a recommendation that we move that money also to get it out of the general fund balance and allow you folks to consider what you want to do with it, make an informed decision once you come to that opinion. The reason I do that is if I leave the resources in the general fund and we take them next year, we could put ourselves in a deficit position. By taking them out now, while it matches resources, money in, money out, I can put them in a place where you can have a life-to-date decision, and once you decide, we will reallocate it to whatever project you guys
So
decide.
that can to be determined.
Excuse me?
To be determined.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes, Commissioner Antor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So that money that we got from the sale is also going to help offset the shortfall, correct? That's we're going to roll that over so we have a structurally balanced.
You're talking about the healthcare holiday?
Yeah.
Okay, it helped the general fund, it helped our employees. Okay, part of that was shared with our employees on the same ratio that we put the money into the healthcare fund.
No, he's
So-
he's talking about the sale of the property, right?
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought you were talking about the healthcare holiday, that's why I asked you.
No, you had mentioned that we have a shortfall coming up of about $600,000 or $700,000.
Last year, you mean?
Right.
The
You're
fund
talking about the
balance.
fund balance last year. He's
Okay.
talking about the fact that it was 39.5
Yeah,
last
okay.
year.
I re-asked the question now that I know where you focused at, I apologize, I wish.
No, I was just wondering how that shortfall was being addressed.
What's that?
The shortfall, how was it addressed as far as where's the money going to come from or where'd it come
Well,
from?
that ended last year.
Yeah.
That budget was last year. It already has ended, it's closed. So we did not meet that gap as we are instructed through our board policy, our fiscal policy. However, this year we will meet that based on what the projections are.
Okay.
Okay. I'm sorry.
It's all calculated as a point in time. Wayman is correct, we were 39.5%, okay? If we did not allow fund balance to have a surplus, if we did not generate a surplus, that number would get worse, okay? So it's at 700,000 as we start the year. If we have a surplus in excess of $1 million, we would hope that when we recalculate it, will put us back to 40%. We won't know that until we get to the end of the day, when you do your audit and get that final number for the fund balance.
Okay, thank
I
you.
apologize for not being.
No, you actually, it was my fault. I was off a year.
Anything else?
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
With that, let's move on to Commissioner Miscellaneous, which is item 6. Is there any Commissioner Miscellaneous this morning? All right, seeing none then, we are adjourned till Tuesday, November 20th at 8:30.
What was that term you used about?
Elixir.